Sometimes people ask me about my necklace, and I think it has a very nice story. So it wasn't on this string. It was this medallion on a blue, anyway. So I'm hanging out at the neighbor of my ex's place. I don't think she was my ex at the time. And I'm hanging out at her neighbor's place. And her neighbor makes jewelry, and we're looking at the jewelry. And then there's this big medallion thing. And my ex thought that would be fun. And I was like, oh, I do like it. Okay. And then the next time, and then I found out the neighbor decided to give it to my ex for me as a gift. So anyway, so she gave it to me as a gift. And it's so funny because it broke as I was walking down the steps of the train station for the last time, leaving the place that I was volunteering at, where I had met my ex. And where I had first started wearing this. Anyway, now the real reason I want to talk about this is because, and I didn't notice this at the time when I first expressed interest in the necklace, and when the neighbor first got the idea of giving it to me as a gift. But as you know, I have a language called Yodrado, and in my language, this means this means can, error, have, error, no, error, no is in knowledge, no error, or I know I can err, have error. So that's really cool because that's my whole philosophy. Except that's why I'm recording this video, because it isn't quite. Every time I say that we can make mistakes, it feels a little bit wrong. And I don't like how other people talk about, oh, you might have a bias, oh, it's possible for you to be wrong. Our default is actually error. It wasn't always that way, and in the environment in which we did most of our evolving, our default was not error. We were probably batting about 600, I don't know. But that was for the questions that we were asking ourselves. Hey, should I go this way or should I go that way? Hey, can I eat this or not? Hey, can I trust this person or not? Hey, should we punish this person or not? And so, so we evolved to handle those questions. And then all of a sudden, we got this weird idea about ourselves that we're these magical, reasonable things. And just because we were able to imagine certain concepts, thought that they were natural for us. Just because we were able to imagine certain concepts, thought we understood them. But, I mean, any word, morality, ethics, belief, opinion, reason, I ask you to define any of those words, and I bet you're going to struggle. But just because the word exists, you think that it's a capacity that we have. And so, imagine that we were computers, and imagine that we were well-programmed computers such that when a question that the computer didn't have a reliable answer for, when the computer didn't have that answer, it would give you an error message. Thing is, we're not computers. Well, that's all that I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine the fact that there might be an error message. Can't handle this request. Don't know what to do with this. The brain doesn't have that. The brain doesn't have the humility to say, I don't actually even know what to do with what you just asked. So instead, what's going to happen is it's going to be like Siri mishearing you and then giving you web results for something, and you had asked, call my mother. Oh, here are photos of mothers that I found in Google Images. That's much more like a human. Except even Siri sometimes says, "Oh, I can't actually do that. Sorry." Humans don't have that. So it's not that we can make mistakes. Oh no, sorry, that was a bad transition. So because we don't ever really get that feedback in our own minds of the limitations of our cognitive capacities relative to the demand, because we don't get that feedback, well, we think that we just continue thinking that we're given good answers and that we're right about things. And so, and then the super smart ones and the ones that have a modicum of humility go, oh, but sometimes I can be wrong. Wow. But actually, the questions that we're talking about, and we're talking about simple things like, does truth exist? We should think that we would think that that's simple for our brains. It isn't. I mean, we wouldn't if we understood what the brain was, but I mean, this illusion that we have about ourselves, you would think that the question of like, when does life begin? Why are we here? We would realize we would stop asking that question. Oh no, it's just that we are here. Anyway, there are a whole bunch of very simple questions that we struggle with. We act like they're these deep philosophical questions: the chicken before the egg, the trolley problem, objective truth, does it exist or not, morality, ethics, all these things that the questions that you're asking are actually super simple. And you guys are spending an hour talking about them just because there are no error messages to stop it, to let you know that what you're saying is nonsense and your brain is not, like, none of your thoughts now are useful for that question. So what I want us to understand is that although there are no error messages, your default is error in 2023. In the 21st century. In ever since, I mean, for the last, I don't know, 10,000 years, our default has been, whenever you go back to whenever we first started thinking about, hey, what did the world come from, and what do we do in order to get what we want from the world? And so we started having prayer and these beliefs and all this stuff. Go back then, that's when the questions we were asking ourselves had surpassed our abilities to answer them. So at the first time a human went, what are clouds? Clouds are God. At that moment, there would have been an error message, but that wasn't part of our evolution. And at that moment, we know that our questions were now too difficult for us. So then we just started coming up with these answers, not knowing that we didn't have the capacity, not getting any error messages. But now we know that it was before that even. I don't know, when we started coming up with laws and stuff, well, I don't know which came first, but we started coming up with laws and stuff. I think we were doing okay. Punishment, we're doing okay. But then it's once we started thinking about the nature of the world and morality, now mental capacities weren't changing that much, and the questions are going like this. And so now we're at a point in the 21st century, every single question that we ask ourselves, can I trust this coworker based on this email? We have no real mental capacity to interpret that. Can I, even just interacting with strangers all of the time, judging strangers all of the time, entrusting strangers at work, but not having any kind of a social connection to them, or having a close working occupying the same workspace, having the same work goals without ever having had a dance around the fire, without him knowing your kids. That's a context, a situation that we did not evolve for. It's crazy that we thought that we could just be okay having a work life, but then these people we have no sort of social connection with. And so then there are things in our minds that we would normally share with someone that we collaborate with, but no, because we have to, because maybe there's competition. Oh my gosh. But there are no error messages. And so we're just fucking up. Look at the world. It's absolute shit compared to what it could be. I mean, it's absolute shit, period. Oh, there are good things, obviously. But relative to what it could be if we existed as a species of humble parts of a community, if we existed as a species of humble parts, not parts, I do believe in some individuality, but I don't know. What am I talking about? When have I ever thought about really that question right there? And all of a sudden I had an answer. And I'm sure I could justify it. And I wouldn't be hearing the error messages. But my default is error. So basically, my strategy, just to say a bunch of errors, have the error and the bad voices and the unequipped voices reacting to each other. And if I just doubt myself enough and cross enough errors off the list, just by constantly finding some reason why it's wrong, even though I didn't get an error message, I just keep, maybe it is wrong, and I just keep having, that's the best that I can do to try to reduce my errors without getting error messages. Just look at, the computer gives you a response. It didn't have an error. So the brain gives you a response that it was not actually equipped to give you. And because there was no error message, right? So it gives you a response. Okay. So now imagine that the brain goes, okay, I know there's no error message, and I know I've got a response and stuff, but let's just keep checking anyway. Let's just compare this to something, even though there was no error message. That's real intellectual humility. Even when there's no error message, to know that I guess your default is error, and that there you go. And you know what's so funny? I think this is from a bullet, not a real bullet, a bullet from my little BB gun. And it hit this one, which is I know error. Isn't that amazing? I mean, even if I had done this intentionally and now I'm lying to you to pretend like it's some kind of coincidence, I mean, my aim just isn't that good. And if I shot up close, I'd be too scared it would hit me. So I hope you believe me that, I think I was just wearing this. My friend maybe shot at me, or maybe it was I think it was on my table or something, and we shot at something and it hit this. Or maybe I just bumped it into the corner of a table. I have no idea where this little dot comes from. And this means I know error. I don't really know error. Now in French it's nice because I know I err. I know I err. I know in English it works as well. I know I err. I can err. I have error. I know I err. I have error. So there it works. But if you don't put the I, because since it's actually not there, but you don't actually need it in my language, just like in Spanish, right? So it could be to be able to err. Oh, that would be good actually if this one were. Yeah, oh no. It would be better if there was a bullet here. Because that's the untrue one. It's not that I can err. It's that I err. And I'm just hoping that if I err enough, I'll get something. I'll get some ore. Which is so funny. So ore means gold. So if I err enough, I'll get some ore. So air, ore. And like air, and then ore. But what's funny is because throughout this video, I've been thinking about my conversation with this Israeli guy who was disagreeing about whether there's objective truth. It's kind of, and he was talking about, oh, feet, meter, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, wow, how are there not any error messages? And his name was, well, he refused to validate any of my pronunciations. So I can't tell you what his name was, but can't even tell you how it's spelled because it's spelled with Hebrew whatever. So he would spell it O-R with our letters. And it was something like, oh, 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 oh. Anyway. And or is nice because it's like alternatives. Not just gold, but alternatives. So anyway. There you go. Put out. So our default is error in this world. Once you accept that, come to me. I know it's going to be scary. Come to me. I will explain how we can cope and how we can progress.